Hello, and welcome back to the Culture Cave. We are here to talk about The Expanse, Season 5, Episode 6. Pop a like on the video if you enjoy our discussion. Well, Emmett, how are you now?
Oh, I'm doing okay. Feeling good that we're talking about the Expanse and getting a bit of escapism going in these needed times.
Yeah, escapism to a world or slash system where I don't know if I'd want to escape to this system
Yes.
at this point, to be honest with you.
I feel like this is the kind of escapism where, like things like Star Trek, you want to escape there because it's like, oh, I want to live in that better world. This is escapism in the sense of like, I'm very glad I don't live in this world. Like, I'm very glad I'm in my world and not this world,
Yeah, exactly. I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, to me, the tension is rising. The tension is rising. Not the words I know, but it's rising in the show where it's like we had a big release of tension with the bombs. Obviously, it finally actually happened.
Yeah.
But now I feel tension rising again because now we've got like Naomi held captive. We've got Amos and Clarissa needing to find their way back to somehow get off the planet. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah.
We have like Holden just figured out in the nick of time, I should say. That wasn't a bone apple tea if ever I heard one. In the nick of time, found out about the Rocinante going to explode. Now he's on the way. We have Alex and Bobby being
Drifting.
chased down. Bobby Draper. We've got
Draper.
them being chased down. Like there's so much tension rising in this season.
Yeah.
When is it gonna pop? This new bubble of tension, is it gonna pop? Well,
What?
we'll see.
Obviously we're leading up to a big confrontation with Marco in the sense of like we've got because we've got the drummer and Naomi plots intersecting, and drummer's in a very interesting position where she desperately wants to take revenge on Marco at the moment, but like
Yeah.
they're almost forced into having this alliance at this stage because of the actions that he's taken, having created a bad situation for all Belters. So their options are almost like limited between work with Marco or become victims of the inner worlds when they come for retaliation.
Yeah, and I will say that they have successfully gotten Drummer and her crew to align with Marco in a way that doesn't actually make me feel any less sort of warmth towards Drummer. I think like she had to do it. Like
Yeah.
I don't feel like Drummer's character has betrayed like
'Cause
anyone by doing this because it's basically I do not believe Marco would have let them leave. Like
No.
let's be honest.
No. Well,
Maybe he would, but I don't think he would have.
we seen this episode that he was ordering people or trying to order some of his inner circle to go, vent Naomi at this stage.
Yeah.
So, even someone he quote unquote claimed to love at some stage, he's willing like to kill them for it. And I don't expect he would have let Drummer's people, especially because I understand that Marco understands that he knows that Drummer wants him dead. So like, if she didn't fall in line at this point, he would have just had her killed,
Yeah, I agree.
and you can see that the fire is still burning behind her eyes. She's still thinking about this revenge.
Yeah, definitely. I think once Naomi has sort of been revealed to Drummer, I think Drummer knows now because of what Philip said. Oh, that was stupid of Philip. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
That was the stupidest moment that character's had.
Yeah, it was a cute little moment. In the sense of like I'll tell you. It's like I could just tell her.
Yeah. What?
It helps remind you of the fact that he is still a kid, in
Yeah.
the sense of like he's still young and like he doesn't necessarily always know when he should shut his mouth and when he shouldn't.
Yeah, exactly. And also, like we see with where Kamina mentioned, sort of how Naomi saved the universe, basically saved the system.
Yeah.
It meant that. It meant that Philip was like, "Oh, really? I'd love to hear that story." Like Philip seems to have a respect for his mother, and
Yeah.
he's probably heard about her being on the crew of the Rocinante and stuff, and he's got respect for her in a way that Marco maybe doesn't want him to have.
What I think it might be that Marco has hid a lot of information about his mom. Like he understands that she was part of this crew, the Rocinante, but maybe doesn't know what the Rocinante has done entirely. So I think he was a little surprised when like Drummer was like, and save the whole system, and he was like, I'd like to hear that story. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
uh, sorry, I haven't heard that bit. You know?
Yeah, exactly. That's been kept from me.
Yeah.
But basically, the seed has been planted in Drummer's head now, though, that Naomi is there. How do you see this playing out?
I think now that like this has been laid in Drummer's head, it's she's gonna have to like rework her plan in the sense of she now has to not only kill Marco but also rescue her friend. But also, I think Drummer has unintentionally laid seeds that could lead to Philip working with her to a certain
Hmm.
extent, where like unintentionally she's revealed to him information that he wasn't aware of, and we've seen him later go and speak with Naomi. Which what did you think about that scene? Like when he actually entered the her cell to speak.
Yeah, I thought it was. It gave me hope that actually, Philip might go away from this life with Marco eventually, and come with Naomi. Whether or not Naomi would want that, I'm not sure. Like she has abandoned him before, but at the same time, the crux of this journey that Naomi started on in this season was to sort of get back to Philip and sort of rescue him from the clutches of Marco. But yeah, I thought it was interesting. I think it is believable. I think Philip's admiration of his mother and wanting to get to know his mother, it is believable to me. And I'm interested to see where this goes. I think Philip could be involved in her escape.
Yeah. I also did love the wee moment, when Marco was like basically trying to make his inner circle go spacer. Like he turns to like the older guy, I forget his name,
Sin, yeah,
Sin right off the bat, and being like, and then this is the first time we see Sin really bite back at
yeah,
him because like he still does care for Naomi. We were sort of wondering, Nick, last episode if that was if after what Naomi did, like if that was going to have cut off that relationship, but he still seems to care about her in a sort of like a familial sort of way. And then like then Marco turns to try and make Philip do it, and then
yeah.
Philip sort of rebels against it. And then obviously we had the third member of the inner circle being like, if you'd asked me, I would have just gone and invented her. Like I
Yeah,
would
I'll just get rid of it for you.
yeah. It's like I like before she even stood up, I'm like she's gonna say that to him because like
Yeah, I think that
he,
name's Carol.
Carol,
Yeah, it's just like next time
asked me,
I I'm your
throw her in the
woman.
vent. You know.
Yeah, I'll do it right now if you want.
Yeah. Do you want me? Do you want me
Yeah, she doesn't need any excuse to
Yeah.
throw Naomi out into space. That's for sure.
You always get
So,
that. You always get that in shows where like the two female characters are the ones that dislike each other the most.
oh
Which is
yeah,
it's like a real common thing that's always in writing, and I'm like, oh, that's an awkward undercurrent that we see in a lot of shows where it's just like. They always put a lot of female characters as in deep opposition with each other, which is like why I really love the relationship that Naomi and Drummer have built up. Where
yeah.
like they're like total, best bros for life, basically. Willing to like risk all sorts of shit to save each other.
Yeah, it's a trope. Yeah, it is a real trope to have.
It's definitely mitigated in the show by the fact of Drummer's
Yeah,
existence.
like there exists a positive female relationship within the show. So they are sort of doing the right thing, but at the same time, it is realistic for women not to like each other, as well as it's realistic for men not to like each other.
Oh,
So
100%.
So
It's
the
just
fact that they are doing the Drummer Naomi thing, it actually does. Yeah, it means that they can do something like this without it being too tropey, I suppose. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so that is the Naomi sort of Marco storyline. Anything else you want to touch on there? Maybe what do you think about when Marco was laying it out for Drummer, and they were laying out the idea that they can using Ganymede, which is the place which we sort of the moon of Jupiter, I think. Is it
Yeah.
Saturn or Jupiter?
It's one of the moons. It's one of the moons.
Yeah, one of the moons. And Ganymede Station, they can actually sort of have their own produce now, and within 10 years they'll be out producing Earth.
Yeah, well, it's one of like Marco brushes over like some of the logistics there in the sense of like there will be thin years at first, but within 10 years, it's like Marco, you're brushing over a point there. It's like how thin are we talking? Are we going to have enough to sustain ourselves? Like how many people are going to be at risk of starving? What happens if we have setbacks? Like
Yeah.
Marco is in some ways very optimistic and in many other ways deeply cynical. Like he's deeply cynical to everyone else, but like his own ideas, his own goals, like he just assumes that things are going to go his way.
Hmm. Which is
Total accurate.
100% bad guy.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like the thing about him, what you could say is he is doing it for a belief, a cause that he believes in.
Yeah.
He's not, which is he doing? I think it is for that. I don't think he's a bad guy in the way that he sort of is all doing it all just for his own gratification. Like he's doing it for his own, so he can be viewed as a legend. I don't get that from him. I think he's more of a utilitarian bad guy. He's more of a Thanos. There's more questions to his motives rather than just being like a Bond villain or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, we've had this. We've discussed this before, where it's like a good villain has a point, but have come to the wrong conclusion.
Yeah, exactly.
Where it's like so Marco is definitely. I do think there is a streak of egomania within him. He's sort of like a cult leader to a certain extent in the sense of like he believes his own hype to a certain extent. Like he's like, I think he's one of those people who's probably had to like fake it until he's made it for so long that he started to believe his own lies. He started to believe that he is the expert who can hold everything together. And I think we might see a little bit more of that persona crack as the season goes on, because we're already starting to see little moments like when Philip and his other officers start to disagree with him or actively go against his plans. Like we can see that starting to come out a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm interested to see where that goes. Right, okay, so I thought we would just mention some of the smaller storylines before we hit on the big one at the end.
Yeah.
So the smaller storyline I want to look at first of all is just the Holden one. I think we got pretty much like one scene with Holden in this episode, and that was him letting Monica join the stay on the ship, giving her, and then he goes down into his little office area, gives her sort of guest privileges on the ship, and then
but only guest privileges. Only guest privileges,
exactly. And also there's a message from Naomi too.
Yeah, well, again, this was definitely like a little check-in with Holden, just to be like, to make sure everyone knows he's on his way. We'll get back to Holden soon. We have these other plot lines we're going to focus on this episode, but here's a little bit of Holden to tide you over. But no, I thought it was a nice little moment because like it shows that he's willing to extend a certain level of trust to Monica, but also is smart enough to know that like Monica's ultimately quite a self-serving person, so you need to limit the amount of trust that you give her.
Yep. I would agree with that. But so there's not really much to talk about there. We'll see where that goes in the future. They are out now chasing down that proto-molecule sample, so we'll see if they get it. I think a really mental end to the season would be like that proto-molecule being released,
Oh god, yeah. That would be dangerous.
Something's going to happen with it eventually. I just wonder
released on Marco's ship, perhaps?
Oh,
it is going to Marco. Like Marco wants it where he is, and like we have a lot of dangerous people all together. It's like what could happen,
Well, let's do it. Let's release it. That's what we'll do, Emmett. We'll release it on Marco's ship.
You and I will release it on Marco's ship.
We'll release it on Marco's ship, and then we'll burn the whole ship after.
Yeah, we'll see how we'll record everything down for scientific purposes, obviously. Scientific purposes.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's what we'll do. That's our plan. Right, okay, so next, another small storyline that we see a little bit of is the Avasarala storyline. So the Transport Secretary has been made Acting General Secretary, and Avasarala has been brought into the cabinet. What did you think of this?
We talked about the fact that like we think Avasarala is going to get to come back into the fold and be able to sort of fix a lot of situations. And this was a much more realistic depiction where it's like it's not just her being like the next in line, just so happens to be after the asteroid. It's like someone else, but like this person is much more, because I really enjoyed his wee speech where he explains how he got into the politics, where he was like, I just got into being the transport minister because I thought the last guy was a complete idiot and didn't know what he was talking about. And I've worked in the sort of industry for a long time. I did not get into this to be a career politician to like lead the world. I need someone like you on my cabinet. I need someone who knows this stuff beside me. I'm acting Secretary General, but I need someone more experienced because I don't know what I'm like. Without saying it, he was like, I don't know what I'm doing, know. And like, I honestly,
it made so much sense. Like you said, it made so much sense rather than it just being luckily Avasarala who's next in line. It makes so much sense that she's not, and she's getting to come back into the circles, like that she was in previously.
Yeah, that she'd been almost blacklisted from after the election. So it makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense that he's bringing her back into the fold. And it was a very, human moment from that guy just to be like, hey, I'm in over my head.
Yeah.
I need someone who is what I am not to help sort of lead through this moment in history. And it was a very intelligent move on his part. So fair play to him. You know.
Yeah, and it looks like her children are going to be okay. They're coming up to the moon, but Arjun, her husband, might not be. And
Yeah.
before you say what you want to say, thank God for that. I hate recasting, so thank God for that.
Well, again, we'll obviously see how everything pans out, but if this is a loss for Avsarala in the sense that she loses her husband before they're able to reconcile, it'll be a tragic aspect to her character. And as much as I did like, obviously he had been recast, but I did like the actor that they had for season 3, and I enjoyed their relationship during the new campaign running. If we lost that character, it wouldn't be the worst in the world. Like, they could only ever really interact with Avasarala, so like
Yeah.
they were very limited on who they could interact with.
Yeah, exactly. Well, at the same time, they were recast, and we just need that stain taken away from the show.
No recasting ever.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. So the last sort of smaller one we have before we get into the bigger storyline of the Amos storyline. The smaller one I was thinking about is the Bobby and Alex one, where they're getting chased down by what looks to be it's I think it's confirmed, isn't it, that it's Martian
Free Navy. Oh well, it's the Free
Martian
Navy.
Navy ships, Free
Yeah.
Navy. Yeah, they got them. They got them from them.
Yeah.
So they were sort of gonna come across on the bridge, and then Bobby's just in her suit, like kills a load of them. Alex
do some
jumps through space.
They do
Yeah.
some reverse piracy, which is kind of great.
Yeah. So what did you think of this whole? It's like sort of a little snapshot into their storyline, but it was more of it was just like a little snapshot of action.
Yeah, it was a nice little action piece, to keep us going. It updated their storyline, and it was a nice kind of quick moving, fast paced adventure bit where there was some risk and danger to it. It was nicely done. I'm always a fan for seeing Bobby in the big sort of Martian military corps armor. I always get hype when I see her like that, in her full suit, ready to rock. And it was a great wee scene of like her playing distraction while Alex went overhead to steal what they needed to steal. It was a very nicely shot scene. I quite enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I never would have thought when I first started watching this season that the vast majority of the season would have these two just in that little ship. I would have thought
The Razorback.
Yeah, the Razorback. Where this ship has gone, this season's gone. Sorry, it's really interesting. Like it's nothing like the other seasons because the characters aren't together, and it's just really interesting to me. I don't know.
We've got a lot of different story. Like it makes things a little bit more slower paced in the sense of we have to cut between all these different storylines and stuff like that. And there's some criticism that can be labeled from that, but ultimately I think they've done a good job of sort of juggling the amount of plot threads that they've got going currently. And obviously they've taken the approach of like they'll have little snapshots of certain storylines, but other storylines will get major focus in other episodes, if you get me.
Yeah,
So like this episode was heavily dominated mostly by Naomi and Amos's stuff, but these little snapshots into Holden and Alex and Bobby and Avasarala are so important to just keep maintaining the momentum of their storylines too,
Yeah, no, I fully agree with you, and I think that you have to have B storylines in episodes and A storylines.
Yeah.
And what they've done this year is they've managed to not really have any B storylines or A storylines. It's just that where they occupy an episode is different. Like they're all just as important as each other in the season, but then they'll sort of take their place in different episodes. In different sort of weightings.
We haven't got A and B storylines. We've got a whole alphabet of storylines going on, and we're going through the whole thing. There's so much going on this season.
Yeah, it's great. Okay, last storyline, which we haven't talked about yet, is the Amos and Clarissa storyline. Nah. So
She explains it all for us.
Yeah, she does. I can't. Every time I hear the word name Clarissa, I can't just not think of that. Okay, so basically they're now in like, it's not really, but it's kind of like a post-apocalyptic world now.
Low-key, yeah.
in the area that they are, and they're sort of going through the conservation forest, which I thought was a pretty cool detail, to be honest with you. I like the idea that every class goes up and plants a tree and gets taught about conservation, because it's so important, especially even in our world today. It's the most important thing. So
and it would be even more important in that like futuristic world where it's like we need to keep these, otherwise Earth will die and will be as barren as Mars. Like we need to keep this stuff going, you know.
Exactly. So they're going through. We got obviously a reminder that Clarissa is from such a is from such a rich background that her like father and grandfather were the ones who actually looked after the program.
Yeah, it's funny because like her and Amos have a lot of things in common, yet come from such deeply different backgrounds. Like, it's like the interactions between this season rather have been absolutely fantastic. And yeah, it is like a post-apocalyptic world, but it's more like it's like, you know, when like a hurricane hits and devastates an area, and like all these people are, you know, as Amos puts it, like when there's, you know, in a civilized world, the tribe is very large, but like when you get into these sort of situations, your tribes shrink down to like more.
I like that. I like that explanation.
Like
really cool.
Amos is like, you know, a lot of people would think that Amos is just like a bit of a brute, but he does have like an understanding of the world. He comes from a very different world than a lot of other people, you know. So
yeah, exactly. Well, then they're going to go back to the world he comes from, because they're heading to Baltimore. To get there, they get a little tip-off from a man around a campfire. I like this little side westerny sort of post-apocalyptic the mission they're going on. So
after they find a dead body in the snow that they loot like they're in a Skyrim game or something like that, you know.
You got to loot it. You got to loot that.
He might have some good. He might have some good loot on him. You know, you never know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So basically, they're running. They come up to this compound of this guy's house. He's like sort of like an end of world type that they mentioned, and he's got a gun on them, and a fake gun in the window. We come to learn, but also he makes Amos strip down.
Just an excuse to get him naked, you know.
Yeah, I know. I love the idea that actor, they went, okay, so we're going to have a scene where you're almost naked this season.
Yeah, in the snow.
You know, and then he's like, right. And then for like 4 months, he's like, you know, properly like toning up fully, because he's like, I got to look good. And then and then he's got like, you know, 2 minutes or like 30 seconds of a shot.
We did also see him vaguely naked in the showers after he beat up a load of people. We're getting a lot. We're getting a lot of shirtless Amos this season. You know.
Yeah, and I'm loving it, to be honest.
Yeah, like I don't swing that way, but I'm totally for it too. The dude is like expertly proportioned. You know, he's a very handsome dude, and like he's flexing every time he's taking off his shirts and stuff.
Oh, he knows it. He knows it.
He knows he's got the body. You know, it's very impressive. You know.
Yeah, so he's basically he's lucky. Like his plan wasn't really a plan. I'm going to walk up to this guy, try and get close enough to kill him. But then he didn't. So then Clarissa saved him with her implant. Yeah, she just went full on. Remus Lupin, like.
Yeah, she berserker raged him, like smashed him into the ground. Like it was a very fast paced cut sort of scene, like, you know, which sort of like it flowed very differently than the way that they edit the rest of the show to sort of like really highlight the chaotic nature and like the speed and strength that she gets from like her implant and such. To
be honest with you, I don't know how I feel about it. I don't know how I feel about that idea of this crazy like like being that aspect of a TV show and that sort of element coming into the Expanse. I don't know how I feel about it. I don't know. I'm not saying I don't like it, but it's not. I don't know where I fall on the gauge of, do I like that now they have superhumans? You know what I mean?
Well, they had sort of highlighted, obviously, in season 3, the fact that like the implant made her a lot stronger than it should have. And like I enjoyed the way that they, you know, sort of they framed it in this one, because it was quite shocking and it was quite like, you know, out of the blue. We weren't expecting it to be that. Like I was expecting her to like, you know, come in and save the day, but I wasn't necessarily expecting it to be as brutal as it was. You know,
like the blood just splats all over Amos.
Yeah, like he's just like.
You know, that was like on the set that day. They were like, "Hang on, the blood's gonna splat. How can we do that? Because we don't have enough time to clean this costume before we're doing the next scene.
Strip him off.
We'll just strip him off. We'll get him to strip down, and then the blood will go on him. Easy cleanup.
Easy. We'll just let him have a shower. We'll have another shower scene or something like that. You know, it'll be great.
Yeah.
Just the director being like, how many shower scenes can I get Amos into this season?
Yeah, but so now they're in a little hold up and they're going to be going. Now, the thing I wanted to mention most of all was at the end, whenever they're talking and talk about his plan, what he did, what they did, what the plan was, he says Holden never would have let me do that. He never would have okayed that plan. Yeah. It was too risky, right? And then he sort of has a real somber moment and he says, I need to get back to my crew. And I just was really like, Amos realizes that his crew, his family, that is the Rocinante crew, Holden in charge, is what actually tethers him to not just being a emotionless killing machine who doesn't care about any consequences of anything.
He misses them. Like, he knows that they are,
they ground him.
They ground him.
Ironically, he came back to Earth, to the ground, and was not grounded anymore.
And like, it's funny because he's having to be like the grounding force for Clarissa in a lot of situations, in the sense of keeping her safe and keeping her from indulging too much in her implant. And that situation. So and I think it's just maybe because this is the first time that they've had proper respite since they've got out from the prison. This is the time that they've actually got to rest, because he wouldn't even let them rest alongside the campfire, that other guy, because he's like, can't trust this guy at the moment. He seems on the level, but this could be a trap. We can't take the risk. And this is the first time that they've had a chance to really sit down and be like not moving. I think it's really just impacting Amos, like what all's happened. It's like, I need to get off this planet. I need to, there's stuff going on here. I need to get back to the Rocinante, and figure this out.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this crew being back together. However, I don't think it's going to happen until next season.
Yeah. Or at the very, very end of this season. We're gonna have to spend a whole season with them apart before we get them back together again.
Yeah, unfortunately.
I miss seeing them all together. I miss their little interactions as a crew.
So do I. But it is what it is. Right, guys. Well, that's pretty much all I have to say about this episode. I'm sure there's little things we're missing, little details in the show. It's really, really complicated and really dense. If there's anything we missed, make sure you put a comment below. If you want us to have a little chat about that, we can mention it next week, or even we can respond to you in the comments. Apart from that, Emmett, is there anything you wanted to mention before we go?
In the comments, tell me how many more scenes of Amos with his shirt off do you think we're going to get before the end of the season 5? I'm going to put a conservative estimate of at least 3 more times with his shirt off.
Very conservative.
Very conservative.
I'll be a bit more liberal. I'm going to put mine at... Oh, should I do the Price is Right thing and say 4?
You're going to Price is Right me, are you?
I'll go 4. Yeah, Price is Right prediction. And just so you know, that counts. If they have his with his shirt off and then they cut away to a different scene and come back, he still has his shirt off, that counts as 2.
Are we doing that now? I'm not sure I agreed on these rules.
Yeah, and now we're in a strange situation where for the last 2 episodes of this show, I'm going to be just every scene Amos is in, I'm just like, whip your shirt off, mate. Take your shirt off. Come on.
Sitting next to your wife, just being like, take your shirt off.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she won't mind it, I'm sure. But right, okay. Well, there we go. Make sure, guys, you subscribe to the Culture Cave if you haven't already. We're back next week to talk about The Expanse. Emmett and I have lots of things planned for the future. We love talking about sci-fi, fantasy, horror, everything. We've got a load of great ideas, so come with us on the journey. On the channel, there's a load of different podcasts, different videos on different things. There's also live stream every Tuesday night. Check that out. Apart from that, I think we're ready to go, Emmett. Closing thought?
Let's hope Earth isn't hit by any more asteroids, both in our world and the real world.
In the real world, I agree with that sentiment. All right, guys, see you next week. Bye-bye.